Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Storytime Society. I'm your host Jamie, and I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad you're alive. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. The theme of this episode is friendship drama with updates. The title of the first story is Found My Close Friend 31 Female on Bumble a month before her wedding. My work wife from my first job had been a close friend of mine for years. We still hang out at least a couple times a week. She's engaged to a guy who I really like and is getting married in May. Yesterday, a friend of mine found her on Bumble and texted me screenshots. I sent them to her asking if there's something I should know, and she replied that they must be from when she was single and she probably forgot to turn it off. The thing is, I recognize the pictures and they're recent. My girlfriend and I are even in one of them. I had spoken to her fiance earlier that day about bachelor party plans, and everything sounded like it's very much still on. Some of our friends have joked that she can do better. She's really, really attractive and makes great money, while he's very much the blue-collar type. But he treats her like a princess, a big upgrade from the trash F-boys that she dated in the past. I get the feeling she's having second thoughts and looking around again. I'm kind of conflicted on whether or not I should bring this up. And if I do, whether I should talk to her or him about it. She's a close friend, and if things don't work out, it's her side that I'll take. But I've been in toxic relationships before and can't help but think I'd feel very guilty if he marries her next month without knowing she's not fully invested. Any advice on how I can approach this? Or should I just leave it alone? Oh, Lord. Well, definitely don't let him get married to this woman if she is fully searching for another partner on a dating app. I mean, maybe she's not searching for another partner. Maybe she's just searching for a hookup or something. But I would say no, because marriage is just such a big deal. It's like you don't, yeah, do you want to get involved and do you want to like stir up that drama? Probably not. But if you really think about it, you would really want to know if you were about to get married to someone next month and spend the rest of your life with them, and then you found out that they were literally on Bumble looking for, I don't even know, someone else. Like, that would just suck. I would hate, because obviously if they break up, like, you can still be on her side, but it's still the right thing to do to tell or figure out, at least go to her. What I would do is, because I would feel like, obviously if I'm really close to her and she's my friend, I would be like, you can still take her side. But what I would do is just like talk to her about it and be like, you need to tell him, and you can't hide that from him. And I know that it's you. Like, I know that whatever excuses you made, I know that they're not. I know that you're lying and you're like really on Bumble. She probably won't want to be friends with you after. I don't know. Maybe she will. I have a feeling it's going to stir up a little bit of drama from that, though.
If you want extra content weekly, head over to patreon.com/storytimesociety and become a member on there for extra content. Love you.
All right. There's an update, and it's the next day. After some back and forth about whether I should leave it alone, I decided to bring it up again with her today at happy hour. Plan was to frame it as, quote, I know that's not an old profile from the pictures, just wanted to make sure you're okay. Turns out I didn't have to. She came clean about it before I even had the chance to broach the subject. She's had some really serious political lifestyle arguments with her fiance in the last month. And while she still cares for him, she isn't sure if she can see herself wanting to have children with someone whose values are so radically different from hers. He and I have never talked about politics much, but I knew he was pretty far to the left while she's a social liberal, fiscal conservative. But apparently he's also vehemently against giving any vaccinations to any future kids they might have, which he had never mentioned before. Not just COVID, any immunizations at all. I can't say I would be comfortable marrying someone in that situation either. In regards to the Bumble profile, she was out of town for work a couple weeks ago, got into a big fight with him over the phone, and made the profile later that night while drinking at the hotel bar out of frustration. She feels guilty about it and deleted the app when she got home, but didn't realize that meant the profile would still be up. She says she didn't actually go out with anyone, but got a bunch of matches, and it kind of served as a verification to her that she still had options. She asked what I would do if I were in her situation, and I gave her the honest response that I would end it before it was too late and things got out of hand. For the record, I'm not the only one she talks to about this. And she says she got the same advice from family and another close friend. So she's calling off her engagement tomorrow, hoping my girlfriend and I can help her pick up the pieces. It's a shame it didn't work out, but knowing the whole story, I think it's for the best. So this was in 2022. But I definitely agree. I think that if you guys have like serious political, like you're not going to be able to have a relationship with someone and a relationship for the rest of your life with someone that doesn't understand your views. And at the end of the day, your views are also like your morals and how you live your everyday life. And you make basically all your life decisions based on what your views and morals are. So, although some people like to say, like, oh, it's just politics, blah, 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 at the end of the day, like, really, that's just, I feel like it's just a cop out because it's not just politics and it never is. And if any singular person were to really think about it, it's never just politics. Like, there are so many things that go along with your political views. Obviously, that is a huge thing with like children and not agreeing on certain things that you want to do for your children. That's just never going to work out. And I'm glad that she ended up, admitting and coming clean. Obviously, I don't think that's the right thing to do, to be out of town and be like getting on Bumble, and also like checking your options while you're in a relationship is also very crazy, but obviously she feels guilty about it. So that's all I can really say. Top comment says, always best to make a definitive decision on that before the wedding, especially considering the differing views that they have as per what the OOP says. Also, a lot of you guys always ask what OOP is, and a lot of these I'm reading from Best of Redditor updates, which are posted by someone else. They're usually copied and pasted into the Best of Redditor subreddit by someone else that isn't OP. OP is original poster. OOP is original poster. So when we're talking about OOP, we're talking about the person that actually wrote this. But OP in this scenario on this subreddit would be the person that posted it but didn't write it. Does that make sense? I get a lot of questions about that, but it just always says OOP, so I read OOP. Sorry if that bothers you, but that's what I'm going to keep doing. Fingers crossed. Well, hopefully she finds a better partner for herself, one that aligns better with her own views. There's no way this hasn't come up yet, especially in the current political climate. With everything that's been going on, you can't escape talking about politics unless you actively avoid it. My guess is that they knew at least some of their views didn't align, but chose to ignore it until now. People are weird. I do feel like a lot of people do this. A lot of people usually choose to ignore it for a while up until like something truly gets to them, or the political climate just reaches like a certain point where it's just like, oh, I can't deny this now and I can't like ignore it for any longer. Do I think that's right? No, I do think that everyone should always be informed. I think that obviously like you don't want to, in this case, ignorance is not bliss, and you really don't want to be ignorant, and you don't want to just like not care about politics. It's really, I mean, obviously it's a luxury to just not, I could sit here every single day and not pay attention, never ever speak about or look at or listen to anything political and just be like la-di-da, and just live about my day. But you can't do that if you're like even a shrivel of a good person. The title of the next story is, my 28 female husband, 36 male, passed away, and now his best friend, 33 female, is trying to control his services. I'll try to make this brief. My husband, Jonah, passed away unexpectedly a month ago from a stroke. I don't want to get into the specific about that part. It's the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life, and I'm still not sure how I'm ever going to move on. We were married for 5 years, together for 7. The past 2 years we've been trying for a baby, but we're just getting to the point of considering IVF when he died. Jonah had a close friend in high school named Marjorie. Marjorie also ended up going to the same university as he did, and they spent a lot of time together during those college years. Jonah said that he liked Marjorie's company, but never felt anything beyond friendship with her, which I totally believe. Jonah dated other women during that period, but told me that several times Marjorie hinted that she wanted him to ask her out. She also joked about wanting him to be her plan B in case she didn't meet someone and get married by 30. By the time I'd started dating Jonah, he had moved a couple of hours away from his hometown and Marjorie. Despite this, Marjorie immediately began finding excuses to come to our town and hang out, which usually involved her encouraging us to go drinking and then her passing out on the couch at Jonah's apartment. I didn't mind her for the most part, but she had a habit of saying things like, quote, "You know, you ruined our marriage pact, haha," and pointing out all the things that she knew about him, like what he took in his coffee, his favorite bands, etc. Over the course of our relationship, and especially after we got married, Jonah definitely put some distance into his relationship with Marjorie. He confided in me that he felt he had outgrown her and that they really had little in common anymore. He stopped responding to her invitations to hang out as often, though he would occasionally call to catch up out of guilt, especially when she would text him or leave messages saying she was so sad he was ignoring her and the like. But now he's gone. I had him cremated like he wanted. We haven't done the memorial service yet. It was too hard for me to even imagine the first couple of weeks, and I also wanted to give time for some out-of-state people to make travel plans. The memorial is this weekend. However, 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Marjorie, sent to around 60 people, including Jonah's family, saying that she was holding a memorial service for Jonah in the town where they grew up, the day before his memorial here. I was completely blown away, seeing as she hadn't mentioned anything to me or even attempted to call. Along with the details, the email said that she was planning the memorial in light of the fact that no other service had yet been held in his memory, and he deserved to be laid to rest with honor. For the record, she was invited to the memorial, which I've been planning, and knew it was happening. I called her, of course, and told her that while I appreciated her willingness to help with Jonah's goodbye, I was already planning a service for him that would involve all of his family and friends. She immediately went on the defensive and said that she had, quote, only started to plan a service when she realized I wasn't willing to do it in a timely manner. I told her that the timing wasn't her choice to make, but that if she wanted to have a memorial of some kind, to please just add on the invitation that his official memorial was going to be held this weekend. And she said fine. I sent a message to all of Jonah's invited friends and family to make sure that they knew the real service with both of our families was going to be here, and then just washed my hands of the whole thing. This week, I received a message on Facebook from Jonah's cousin saying that Marjorie, who has apparently blocked me on Facebook, created an event for Jonah's official memorial service, her memorial, and invited everyone she possibly could. I've been getting blown up with emails asking which day the memorial is and where. I'm honestly furious. I don't have the emotional energy to deal with this. I ended up putting a post on my wall reiterating the date of his service here and asking people to please share it. Thankfully, I think the older members of the family don't use Facebook or email very often, so most of them haven't been confused. But a lot of people now think that Marjorie's service is the real one. I called Marjorie again, asking her to add an addendum to her event saying that his actual memorial was going to be here. She told me that Jonah would have wanted it this way, and that if I couldn't appreciate her efforts, I wasn't invited to say goodbye to Jonah. I told her that was fine, seeing as I'd already said goodbye to Jonah when I held him as he died. She hung up. Apparently, she's now spreading information to her mutual friends with Jonah, saying that he was planning on leaving me because I wasn't able to conceive. She also said that we had approached her to carry a baby for us. All absolute lies. His cousin sent me a screenshot of a text where she said that, quote, Jonah always thought we would have the cutest baby together, and that angry widow doesn't understand how much he wants children. I'm at a loss to what to do. I don't care what she says about me, but she's now tarnishing my husband's memory, especially saying that he wanted to divorce. Jonah would have never left me, and anyone that knows him at all knows that we were committed to each other above all else. I need to figure out how to tell this woman to F off without encouraging her to spread more lies, and I also want to just forget the whole thing and crawl in bed and never get up again. Help me, please. Well, I'm going to say what I would do as a crazy... I mean, I'm not even crazy, but this would make me crazy. I would actually, I would do anything. I would post all the screenshots on Facebook. I'd be like, this girl is crazy. She has lost her absolute mind. Post it wherever you possibly could so that everyone in the world can see it. Literally send out an email thread, because this is not, I mean, you shouldn't have to deal with this added drama to your poor husband's funeral. Like, you're already dealing with so much, and then this stupid bitch. Like, I wish there was something you could do legally and be like, girl, I will like, I want to sue the I would want to sue the fuck out of her, because she's actually the worst person in the world. I mean, she's literally lying on his name, lying on her name, making this all about her when this poor girl's going through the worst time of her life and having to deal with this and having to plan like a memorial service on top of all of this. Like, that's just awful. Oy, oy, oy. This is what someone said. I'm sorry for your loss. Send an email to all of the guests you've invited to attend the actual memorial service stating, just to reiterate, the service will be held at location on date. Do not mention Marjorie, her lies, or the second service. Oops. Sorry. Not me being like, I would defame her and fucking post all the screenshots. Okay, contact the funeral home per U. Thomas Beckett's decision and see what can be done to pull the plug on Marjorie's service. Delete and block this woman on all forms of social media, email, your phone, everywhere. Unless and until somebody comes to you asking about Marjorie's lies, resist the urge to set the record straight. If you try to publicly address her claims on Facebook or elsewhere, it will almost certainly get back to her, and she'll be even more fueled by attention and the knowledge that she's getting under your skin. Cut off her supply by ignoring her. If she crosses the line into character assassination against you, contact legal aid. Content yourself with the knowledge that if any of Jonah's and Marjorie's mutual friends have half a brain, they'll understand that she's out of her effing mind, or at least being outrageously inappropriate. Edit. Almost forgot. Do you have a picture of Marjorie? Get one. And deputize someone at the real memorial service to guard the door and refuse her entry should she show up. Not the most fucking mature response ever. And I'm like, you should just post all the screenshots on Facebook and literally like, hey, I hate her so much, sue the shit out of her. But honestly, that's probably better. But that's what I'm thinking as well. It's like, if anyone is even has a singular brain cell, they'll know that Marjorie's service is not the real one versus the service of his literal widow, like his widowed wife. Like, which one are you going to go to? Which memorial service are you going to go to? And then also hearing all that, like all those rumors on top of that, I'd be like, this girl is crazy. She's crazy. Okay. Update 1. I apologize for not updating sooner, but a lot has happened in the last couple of days. Thank you to everyone who offered help and advice. For those that offered monetary assistance, Jonah and I were in a stable position financially. I'm going to be comfortable until I decide to go back to work. Your willingness to help was deeply appreciated, however, and I'm truly bowled over by your kindness. Bowled? I don't know. I took the advice of the majority of the comments and called the chapel where Marjorie was planning her service. I spoke with the pastor, who immediately told me that he had been trying to get in touch with me regarding the service. Apparently, both Jonah and Marjorie had grown up in that church. I'm not religious, and neither was Jonah as an adult. My voicemail has been flooded, so it's definitely plausible that I overlooked his call. He immediately expressed how sorry he was to hear of Jonah's loss, and said he had received my contact info from Jonah's great aunt, who still attends there. He said he was surprised when Marjorie asked to have a service for Jonah, but she had claimed that Jonah and I were separated and I didn't want to be involved. He had been trying to follow up with me, but obviously that didn't happen. He was very apologetic and said that we could cancel the service or move forward in any way that felt right to me. He said that he knew the church members would appreciate the service, since many of them remembered Jonah as a boy, but obviously Marjorie would no longer have a role. I agreed that the service could go forward. He called to speak with Marjorie after our conversation and informed her that she was no longer welcome to participate in the organization of the service after her behavior. He wouldn't tell me all that she said, but says she was distraught and he recommended some mental health and spiritual services to her that he hopes she accepts. She apparently apologized for lying and asked to speak with me, but I declined. I feel bad if she's truly contrite, but I just have too much on my plate right now. We had 2 beautiful services for my husband. First, the one at his hometown church, and then the non-religious one that I planned. Everyone that came wanted to honor Jonah, and that's all that really matters. I was told a dozen stories about him that I'd never heard before, and I laughed so hard I cried. Then I cried some more. My cousin was on the lookout for Marjorie, and I honestly didn't think about her the whole weekend. She turned up for the first service, and the pastor ended up speaking with her, unbeknownst to me. My cousin says he was sympathetic but firm and told her that her presence there would be inappropriate. Surprisingly, she left without fuss. I'm still not sure the situation is entirely resolved, but I got to lay my husband to rest in the way that he deserved. And that's the most important thing to me right now. Thanks, everyone, for your support. Edit 1. I debated whether or not to even mention this, but this community has been so awesome, I thought I might as well. I realized this weekend that I'd missed my period, and I'm usually like clockwork. It could just be stress, but I'm going to take a test later. Can't decide if I'm incredibly hopeful or absolutely terrified. Edit 2. Not pregnant. It was a long shot. Thanks for your support. Okay, that's I'm really glad that happened. I'm so glad that Marjorie, the pastor was on this girl's side, and Marjorie was no longer, she does need help. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, that girl has some problems that need to be worked out. I don't know if it's with Jesus or with a therapist, but most likely she needs to go see a therapist, because that girl, she has issues, and not the good kind. Okay, someone said, I'm glad the pastor is such an awesome, compassionate person and that you were able to memorialize your husband with people who cared about him. OOP said, I definitely expressed my heartfelt appreciation to him. I tend to be uncomfortable in religious settings, which is why I immediately told him that I'm not religious, but I was really moved when he said, that part doesn't matter right now. You loved your husband and there is always a place for love here. I teared up, I admit. Aw. Wait, I love that. That's so sweet.
Storytime Society is now available on all listening platforms. If you are on any of those listening platforms, I would really appreciate it if you rated me 5 stars. Thanks for all the support.
Update 2. 4 months later. I'm not sure if anyone will remember this post, but I thought I would update since it's been a few months. I haven't been checking my inbox, and I'm sort of amazed I remembered the password at all. But I appreciate all of you who sent encouraging messages. It means a great deal to me. It's been around 5 months since Jonah died, and honestly, it still feels like I'm waking up and living the same day over and over again. I'm in therapy, but the feeling of grief has not subsided whatsoever. Everything reminds me of Jonah, and I still feel like half of me is gone. I'm considering moving out of the country, or at least to a different state, but I also feel like a piece of Jonah is here in the house where we lived. Even worse, Marjorie has still not disappeared. I deleted my social media a couple months ago in an attempt to simplify my life, but my cousin, who also knows Marjorie, let me know that she has been recently posting photos of herself on Facebook with Jonah. Some were from several years ago, but she was saying things like, quote, I still miss my man every day, and quote, I can't wait until Jonah's baby arrives. She is apparently pregnant and claiming that the baby is my husband's. She has also photoshopped his face onto several photos, some on another shirtless male posing semi-suggestively with her. The photoshopping is pretty good, but it's obviously not my husband's body. People have been saying things like, quote, congratulations, we know you'll be a great mother to Jonah's child. Nobody I knew, thankfully. It honestly made me feel sick, and I went and laid in bed pretty much all day. I hate that she is getting to me like this, but I can't stand the thought that she's claiming my husband was unfaithful to me, and that people are believing it. One bright note is Marjorie's brother, who also knew Jonah. On one of her recent posts, he commented, WTF, Marjorie? I spoke to Jonah like 2 weeks before he died, and he said he was trying for a baby with Angry Widow. You guys were just friends. This is fucked up, and you know it. The post was deleted a couple of hours later. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't have the energy to battle with this woman, but I'm infuriated and hurt by this blatantly disrespectful pack of lies that she's spreading. My cousin called her and asked that she remove the photos, but she apparently said that Angry Widow can go to hell. She just doesn't want to accept that Jonah wanted a baby with me more, and she couldn't give him one. I'm lost, guys. What can I do about this? It seems like all I can do is sit and watch this crazy woman try to convince Jonah's friends and family that he never loved me. Then there's a small update. I just spoke with Marjorie's brother, who called to tell me that Marjorie is not pregnant, but seems to truly believe that she is. He asked her how far along she is, and she said 5 months, but she is still completely flat. He isn't sure if she's lying or she actually believes she's having a child with my husband. He asked her when they conceived, and she mentioned a date that he knew we had been on vacation. I'm scared. No, at this point, it's not even like, oh, this girl's making up rumors and lies about me. At this point, this girl needs to be like 5150'd. And I'm not saying that in a light manner at all. I'm saying this is actually truly scary. And I genuinely feel like this is the type of shit, like, this girl would probably go out and harm herself or someone else, and it's not gonna be good. I'm so scared of that. I mean, I feel so bad for OP, obviously. Like, that's just awful to have to deal with, especially on top of everything you're dealing with. It's so ridiculous. But at the end of the day, it's not even, like, this is not a mentally sane person that is doing this. Okay, this is the final update. A lot has happened since my last update. Hopefully, this will be the end of the story. Marjorie's brother became very concerned after speaking to me and apparently questioned Marjorie extensively about her behavior. She continued to claim that she was pregnant with Jonah's baby and that they had had a lengthy affair, but the details didn't add up. The brother knew Jonah pretty well and was generally aware of his work schedule, etc. She said they were meeting at a hotel at lunchtime 3 days a week, but he knew that Jonah came home for lunch with me every day, stuff like that. He went home late that night to sleep on it. After he went home, Marjorie came over to see me at 3 a.m. She started screaming at me to come outside, saying that I had ruined her relationship with Jonah and how happy they were before me, etc., etc. I called the police and her brother, who had both arrived around the same time. She pushed the police officer who tried to ask her what was going on and was immediately arrested. I felt bad for her brother, but he just apologized to me repeatedly. Marjorie yelled expletives. Marjorie yelled expletives and tried to demand special treatment because the police were apparently hurting her baby by keeping her in the car. I gave a statement and they left. Not exactly sure what happened after, but her brother says she is now under psychiatric evaluation and is apparently struggling with a mental disorder that he wouldn't name. She has apparently not taken her meds in 2 years. I didn't ask for details, but it seems she is going to get some help. I'm not pressing any sort of charges. Her brother also linked me to his post on social media where he made it very clear that Marjorie has been having some difficulties. And absolutely none of what she said about Jonah is true. I'm glad that this seems to be over, but I've decided I need a fresh start no matter what. I'm looking for a job out of state, and I'll be doing my best to leave my life with Jonah behind. Aww. Thank you all for your help and encouragement. That's so sad. Just like her saying that she's doing her best to leave her life with Jonah behind makes me so sad. I'm glad that this Marjorie girl is getting at the end of the day, like, she's struggling with a disorder that she cannot control, which is very sad. And not taking her meds for 2 years is actually crazy. Now I'm feeling a little more like empathetic and being like, okay, well, it's not Marjorie's fault. Do I think that excuses everything? No, but it seems like she's struggling with a very serious mental condition, and what can you do about that? Obviously, like, you can be checked in and then get on your meds, and then once you're on your meds, you have to be a responsible human being and keep taking those meds. But it is very common, and I don't know what obviously she's struggling with, but I know with someone that's really close to me who is diagnosed bipolar, constantly for a while, for years and years, like, he kept saying he doesn't have bipolar. So obviously that led him to go off his meds like multiple times, and then we would have to 5150 him. He was 5150'd probably 3 times, and because he's just like in such denial, and I don't even know if he even believes if he has bipolar disorder or not. But every single time he would go off his meds, he would have really, really bad manic and depressive episodes. And it was just like so bad. I mean, obviously to the point where we had to actually like check him in. And I know that it's like, it can be really common, but usually I know in a lot of cases they are in denial, but then once they get on meds and they look back at the situations that happened when they were off their meds, they kind of come to a realization, oh yeah, I actually do have this disorder. But that was not the case for him. And I hope that he now believes it, because of how much has happened and how many times he's had to deal with, because even just like, he wasn't even just 5150 for like a 72-hour evaluation. Like, he would have to stay for weeks, and then he ended up going to like a inpatient facility. So, yeah. The top comment says, poor OP, having to bury her husband and then having his disturbed ex-friend create so much painful chaos. I hope OP is safe, and I hope that Marjorie gets the help she clearly needs. The Astral Penguin said, yeah, I had a psychotic stepmother who had it out for me when I was 22, and my dad died. Needed lots of therapy after that. Yeah, I was hoping OP's miracle baby plot twist was real and not just a stress response. The bit that got me is OP wanting to move out of state and leave my life with Jonah behind. She's buried her husband and now she wants to bury his memory because of a crazy friend. That's breaking. She should be able to cherish the memories she has with him. Grief will make you do crazy things, though, and it will make you want to forget. I mean, I can imagine I would want to forget I wouldn't want to forget, but I would want to forget for the sake of my own well-being, because I know I would be so distraught, and I don't know how I would ever recover. Whew, I don't even want to think about it, to be honest. I mean, I've always said this, like growing up, I said this a lot and I'm trigger warning because I don't know if this is triggering or not, but growing up, I always said, like, I wanted to die before everyone that I loved died, because I feel differently about that now. And now I'm like, I'm not going to be stable when someone really close to me passes away. I know that, but I'm not like, I want it. But before, I think since I was struggling so badly for like most of my life with depression, anxiety, my first like thought when it came to grief or anything loss related, I would just be like, I just want to die before anyone I love dies, because I can't deal with it. I still don't think I can deal with it, but I don't want to die. So that's good. Progress. The title of the next story is, I stood in my partner's best friend's wedding and his wife made me wear a wig. This one is a bit on the longer side. Coming to the internet because A, this is a batshit insane story, and B, I have no idea how to move forward. Any and all advice is greatly appreciated. There's a bit of a backstory to cover, so apologies for the exposition. My partner Joe, 24 male, and I, 24 female, have been together for 8 years and married for just under a month. Yay! Jay's best friend Seth, 23 male, and I have known each other since before Joe and I met. About a year and a half after Joe and I started dating, Seth started seeing Mia, 23 female, and the double dates commenced. I've never been a huge fan of Mia, since she's the type of person to eat 3/4 of her meal at a restaurant and then complain to the waitstaff until they comp the meal, among other things. In the summer of 2021, Seth bought a house for himself and Mia that needed a lot of work due to prior flooding. My partner and I went out there, and Joe and Seth did some work on the plumbing and subfloor. A few other times, Joe went out there to help with other stuff, and by the end of 2021, Seth had the place renovated into a pretty nice house. He and Mia invited us and some of our friends from the friend group out there for a New Year's Eve party. They have a pretty nice detached garage / pole barn situation, so they got it set up with beer pong and speakers and stuff, meaning people were going back and forth from the pole barn to the house. At one point, it was just Seth and I in the house mixing drinks, and he confided in me that he wasn't entirely happy in his relationship. He talked about how Mia called him names, laughed at him, yelled at him, etc., and asked what he should do. I said what my partner would have said. Quote, we have a spare bedroom if you need it. Every time we went out to Seth and Mia's house, Seth would find a way to confide these things in me. They gradually got worse, too. She threw stuff at him, slammed doors so hard they'd break off their hinges, stuff like that. Every time I'd remind him that we had a spare bedroom, but I couldn't outright tell him to leave her, it didn't feel like my place to make that call. Don't get me wrong, I definitely told him he deserved better, but I wanted him to connect the dots for himself. In October 2022, while at a Halloween party, Seth showed me a picture of an engagement ring he'd gotten. I don't remember much of the conversation beyond him asking if his proposal plan sounded good. I told him yes, I congratulated him, I did all the things I thought a friend should do. A month later, there are beautiful photos all over Facebook announcing the engagement and announcing that the wedding date was set for October 2023. In February 2023, Mia asked me to stand as a bridesmaid in her wedding, and I genuinely was shocked. We didn't talk much, even at their house parties. My partner, of course, was asked to be the best man, and he instantly accepted. I didn't know what to say. They'd asked us in front of the rest of the wedding party, and I hadn't been expecting it at all, so I accepted too. It made me nervous thinking about it, but if that's what they wanted, Then I was going to do my damnedest to make this wedding work for them. Despite everything Seth had told me, it wasn't my place to cause a scene about it. In March, Mia asked me to make sure my hair was a normal color for their wedding. It's worth mentioning that at the time my hair was a light lavenderish color, and I'm no stranger to impulsively dyeing my hair a vibrant color. I told her I'd of course make sure it was a normal color, but she'd have to tell me what color. In honesty, because my hair is always a different color. The request didn't bother me much, beyond lamenting having to grow out whatever color she told me to go. Shit really started to hit the fan in August on the bachelorette weekend trip. The drive up was about 2 hours, and Mia spent most of it telling us about the latest wedding drama. That her parents had decided to take all of the money they'd been setting aside for the wedding venue and use it to refurbish their pole barn. Mia's parents were demanding that Mia and Seth work long hours, pouring concrete, putting up walls, and retiling roofs, so the wedding could be held there. Mia talked about how her mother had been especially rude and condescending about the whole thing, calling her an ungrateful bitch when Mia talked about wanting the wedding to be somewhere else. I felt so bad for her. And I felt even worse when Mia's mother, along with 8 of her friends, crashed the bachelorette weekend. We were outnumbered in this Airbnb to the point that I had to sleep on the floor. There were 9 women, all 50 or older, impeding on Mia's bachelorette weekend in the drunk the entire weekend, throwing up into the lake off the paddle boat they crammed all 9 of themselves onto kind of way. Mia had been looking forward to one of those lazy river situations where you rent a bunch of inner tubes and coast down a river and all that. The morning of, though, these women decided it should be put to a vote whether they went. No doubt because some of them were still drunk and some were hungover. And the overall consensus was to skip the tubing that all of the bridesmaids had already paid for and instead hang out at the Airbnb. I grabbed a few pre-rolls from my luggage, took Mia by the arm, and sat out on the front porch with her. We shot the shit about everything, not just the awful turnout of the batch party, but everything else. I felt like we really connected out there, talking about our partners and their friendship and what it would be like when we had kids and they'd had an extra aunt and uncle. For a long time, I thought Seth and Mia would be the godparents to my husband and my kids. A month before the wedding, Mia called an emergency bridal party meeting at their house. Per usual, my partner and I were the first ones there. Once the rest of the bridal party got there, minus Seth's little sister, she was left out of the bachelorette party trip too, we talked about the schedule of the day and how the bridal party would make entrances to the venue. At one point, Mia, who was quite drunk by then, pulled me aside and reminded me about the hair color. My hair at the time was split-dyed red and pink. I asked her what color she wanted me to go, and she said, "Copper would look so good on you." About a week and a half before the wedding, I went out and got a brownish copper hair dye and did the job. Since I colored my hair pretty frequently, it wasn't the healthiest, and I tried my best to do hair masks and stuff to make sure it wasn't too brittle for styling on the day of the wedding. Then, a week before the wedding, my partner proposed to me. I, of course, posted pictures all over Facebook, and my hair in the pictures was copper. The Tuesday before the wedding, Mia texted me and asked if the color of my hair in those photos was how it would be for her wedding day. I said yes and reminded her that I'd asked her what color to do, and she had told me copper. She denied ever telling me that and that she would never have suggested copper since my dress was cinnamon colored. She told me to send her a picture of myself wearing the dress so she could see if the colors clashed too badly. Before I could even send a photo of myself in the dress, she told me to just dye my hair an actual normal color. This turned into a massive back and forth of me telling her that I didn't have the money or time to go out and get my hair redone, and I was afraid if I dyed my hair again so soon, it would break off and be even more awful. I offered to step out of the frame for her pictures. I offered to have my hair up so it wasn't touching the dress. I offered to suggest to her photographer that they color correct my hair. Her mind was made up though. She told me she'd have me wear a wig for the entire day. I told her I certainly couldn't afford a high quality wig, and she told me she would pay for it. The entire bridal party had gotten a text from Seth and Mia requesting all of us be at the venue. About an hour and 45-minute drive. At noon, the Friday before the wedding, to help do final touches before the rehearsal dinner at 5. Of the entire bridal party, my partner and I were the only ones who showed up at noon. Everyone else didn't show up until 5 or later. We went up to Seth to greet him, and the first thing he said to us was, "Is it too late to call it off?" And in proper supportive friend fashion, we told him no and reminded him of our spare bedroom. I'd had a nightmare the night before of the maid of honor beating the crap out of me when she saw my hair. So when she finally showed around 5:30 and came right up to me, I nearly pissed myself. She held out her hand and pointed to her ring finger. It dawned on me that I had, indeed, gotten engaged a few days prior. Easy to forget given all the other stuff that was going on. And I held out my hand so that she could see the ring. She gushed about how beautiful it was, and she told me she needed to talk to me outside after the rehearsal. Fair enough. I confided in her when we stepped outside that I was terrified she wanted to beat me up, and she told me the whole story of the texts. How she had told Mia not to send them and to let her handle it. How her work friends had read all the screenshots Mia sent and thought she was taking things way too far, etc. We talked for a long time, and at the end of it, she'd check with Mia on where the wig situation stood. Before the end of the night, she pulled me aside again and confirmed that Mia wanted me to wear the wig the entire night and that she wouldn't settle for an updo or anything of the sort. The maid of honor then invited me to spend the night with the rest of the bridesmaids at Mia's house, which I politely declined. I was expected at a salon about an hour from my house the next morning at 8 a.m., and I arrived at 7:45 just to be safe. The rest of the bridesmaids, along with the bride, all showed up shortly thereafter. The salon is owned by one of Mia's mom's cousins, who also happened to be at the bachelorette weekend. She was one of the dumbasses puking off the side of the paddle boat. She got me in a chair before I had even set my bag down, and by 8 a.m., I had the most hideous wig slapped onto my head. She didn't even style it, didn't even bobby pin it down. It took 10 minutes max. The other bridesmaids got their hair styled in super cute curls and waterfall braids, and I sat there with an unstyled, unflattering wig on my head that wasn't even properly covering my hairline. We got our makeup done at the salon, too, by a different lady. When I sat down in the chair, she asked me if I was okay, because nobody was speaking to me. I asked her if the makeup was waterproof or anything, and she told me to just try my best not to cry. She ended up doing my makeup pretty quickly, too. And in all, I spent maybe a half hour in a salon chair. The other bridesmaids had way more time for hair and makeup, and between the way the wig looked and the fact that none of them would even look at me, I excused myself to go out to my car. I have never cried the way I did in that car. I called Joe, who was riding with the groomsmen I was going to walk down the aisle with. I tipped my head down so the tears wouldn't leave tracks in my foundation. I cried that I wanted to go home and that I couldn't keep doing this. I told him how I felt like I was back in middle school and high school being bullied, all because I did what the bride told me to do. I dyed my hair the color she told me to dye it. He reminded me that I wasn't standing in the wedding for Mia, but for Seth. I told him I couldn't even do it for Seth, because Seth knew about the situation. Joe had talked to him about it, and wasn't willing to stand up for me, which I'm not saying I expected him to stand up to his soon-to-be wife for another woman, but it doesn't change the fact that I couldn't handle the pressure and the bullying. Joe told me then that I should do it for him, and that after this, we would figure it out. After the ceremony, Al, the groomsman I had walked with, caught me crying. We were all supposed to be taking photos, and I couldn't stop thinking about how these people were supposed to be the godparents to our future kids, and they couldn't even stand to have me in photos without a wig on my head. Al went into the house and came out with one of those little pocket-sized shooters of Pink Whitney for me. After dinner, I slipped out to go to the bathroom, i.e., cry a bit more and call my mom. My mom told me to take the wig off and get a ride home, and that it wasn't worth it. I told her Mia was making me keep it on the entire night. Before she could really convince me to get the hell out of there, Joe tracked me down. He didn't know what to say. He just held me for a while and then told me I had to come back because they were starting speeches. Shortly after the dancing really got going and the sun had fully set, Al started asking me if it would hurt if he yanked the wig off. I told him they hadn't even bothered to pin the damn thing down. I told him not to because I didn't want to face the wrath of Mia. He asked me if I would rather spend the rest of the night miserable, and I shrugged a shoulder and told him to do whatever he wanted. He yanked the wig off and tossed it on one of the empty tables, then told me, "If Seth or Mia have any shit to say, you tell them to come say it to me." A few of the wedding guests even came up to me and said that my hair, despite being braided tightly to my head for the wig to lay on top, looked much better like this. In the days following the wedding, Mia started sharing photos to Facebook, but none of them had me in them. I couldn't tell if I was more relieved to not have to see the palpable misery on my face, or furious that she had me put on a wig just to exclude my face from all the posts anyway. I fell into this horrible despair. I thought I'd be relieved to be done, but instead I was left with this gaping feeling. My partner and I had just stood for his best friend and my close friend on the most important day of his life, and we had nothing to show for it. There would be no showing our kids photos from Aunt Mia and Uncle Seth's wedding day, because that wasn't me in the photos, and even if it was, they didn't bother to send us any from the day at any point. 2 weeks after Seth and Mia's wedding, we were hosting a Halloween party. Partly as a gift to the newlyweds and partly because they usually hosted Halloween and we wanted to give them a break. They said they would come, but the night before the party, they canceled on us. As frustrated as I was to be throwing this party for them only for them to cancel, I can't say I wasn't a little relieved. I didn't know how to talk to either of them after that day, and I didn't want to be forced to figure it out quite yet. The beginning of November, a month and a half after the wedding day, Joe sent Seth and Mia a message in the group chat without me in it. The message reiterated that they are always welcome at our house. We were hosting Friendsgiving at the end of November and had extended the invitation to them, but that we were both incredibly hurt by what went down at the wedding. Joe requested an apology for the hurt I was put through, especially after Mia told me to dye my hair copper and then tried to tell me she never would have said that. Mia responded that I was just mad because I didn't get what I wanted, that we were asinine if we thought she'd see my ugly ass hair and do anything other than throw a wig on my head, that she wouldn't apologize for something she's not sorry for. The following day, Seth called Joe to apologize. Apparently, he told Mia not to send the message. He told Joe that he thought I also owed Mia an apology for taking the wig off at all. During that phone call, Seth said something along the lines of being done with the friend group, that he only wanted to hang out with Joe over all of it. The friend group, who already didn't have the best impression of Mia even before all this shit went down, was unanimously fine with that decision. The day after Seth and Joe's call, Mia sent me a one-on-one message, or shall I call it a novel, about how she would have dyed her hair whatever color I wanted for my wedding, because there are temporary colors and it would fade eventually. She also accused me of not knowing her well enough to be saying that what I was about her mother back during the bachelorette trip, that I was being stuck up, and so on and so forth. I typed up a similar length response, and I'm proud to say I kept it civil. I reminded her that I did dye my hair the exact color she wanted, that I just refused to do it a second time in fear of frying my hair or making it look worse. I apologized for what I'd said about her mother, but I also told her that if I didn't know her well enough to talk honestly with her about something that was deeply troubling her, I never should have been standing in the wedding in the first place. I told her that if I was stuck up, I would have taken myself home instead of still standing in the wedding party, despite everything she put me through. It took 2 days for Mia to respond, and she replied with, "After processing, I feel like I owe you an apology." End of message. We expected to see them at Friendsgiving and try to smooth things over in person, but Seth texted Joe a literal hour before they were supposed to arrive and said that Mia wanted to go look at Christmas lights in a city almost 2 hours away. Joe was faced with the impossible decision as we grew closer to planning our own wedding of whether Seth could be his best man. Ultimately, Seth made the decision for him by blocking me on Facebook and removing me from his contacts on everything. For a long time, that was it. Seth and Mia were strangers to us. We didn't even invite them to our wedding. The reason I hash this all out now, though, is that I'm left with an impossible situation and I need help. In March of this year, about 2 months before Joe and my wedding, Seth called Joe while Joe was at work and asked what had happened to them. Joe asked if he was joking, and when he realized Seth wasn't, he laid it all out. The wig, the non-apology, the name-calling, all of it. Apparently, Seth and Mia don't have anyone to hang out with anymore, mostly due to the way that she treated me. Seth must have taken notes during his phone call or something, because a day or so later, Seth sent Joe a long apology for me. Apparently, Mia had written the apology that I needed over a year and a half ago, gave it to Seth, and Seth gave it to Joe. Joe had been looking for the right time to tell me about it. He said it sounds sort of legit, but he also admitted that it sounds like Seth had written it himself. All of this with the intention of Seth and Joe hanging out together, which, let me be clear, I never prevented. I encouraged Joe to keep up with Seth. I just didn't want anything to do with him. The moment Mia had that wig put on my head, it's like she and Seth became strangers to me. So that's why I'm here. I haven't read the apology, and my partner said he wouldn't blame me if I never wanted to read it. Even typing all of this out, it reminds me the kind of emotional turmoil they put me through over this. What's the play? Do I read the apology? It sounds like Seth and Mia want to go back to double dating and house parties like before. Is that a possibility? I generally don't think I could ever look either one of them in the eye again. but do I owe it to them or my partner to try? Holy shit, talkie mushrooms. That's a lot to unpack, to be honest with you. But what I'm going to say is, first of all, why do brides think they have the ability to tell you what to do with your own body is crazy. If you don't want someone in your wedding with bright pink hair, bright whatever hair, don't have them in your wedding, period. Don't ask them to be a part of your wedding, because why do you think that just because they're in your wedding, you decide how they look? You don't. Period. Don't even argue with me about that, because that will never be an argument that I would ever even hear. Like, that's just ridiculous. You don't get the ability. If I want to dye my hair bright pink, guess what? I'm going to dye my hair bright pink. And you can either deal with it and stop being like a fucking, honestly, that is just so shallow. That is so shallow to be like, I don't want you in my wedding pictures because your hair is pink. Oh my God. Is that the point of the wedding? I don't get these like I don't get this whole wedding fucking thing with, why is the way that your wedding looks so much more important than the fact of the matter of what the wedding actually stands for, which is the fact that you guys love each other and are going to spend the rest of your lives together. But apparently some people don't think of it that way. They think of it as like, oh, let me make sure I get a picture. I get wanting like good pictures for your wedding after you spend all this money, but that doesn't mean that you get to tell people how they should look. And nothing will ever change my mind about that. Okay. Secondly, at the wedding, first of all, OP should have said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not wearing a wig. You are an adult. You have a right to say yes or no about what you want to do, and they can figure out what they want to do after you respond the way that you respond. She could have said, no, I'm not dyeing my hair copper in the first place, or in the second place, after she dyed her hair copper and the girl doesn't like it still, she could have been like, no, I'm not wearing a wig. And then if whatever is the retaliation, who gives an actual fuck? Like, do you really want to be in this wedding? Because I would not want to even go to that wedding, period, as a guest. Also, like, the poor guy being in an abusive relationship with this girl. I think, of course, you can't tell someone what to do, but I definitely think that you could be like, I don't think this is good for you. I'm concerned about you. Every time he's coming to you about an abusive partner, I feel like there's more that you can say. Like, there's more that you can do. There's more that you can say other than just like, oh, remember we have this, but I don't want to convince you not to say. I think you need to, like, I don't know, if that were my friend and they were about to get married to an abusive partner, I would definitely do something more about it, or try to do something more about it, and try to get them to see the error of their ways. And then at the wedding, why did her partner that she was walking down the aisle with, Al, was it? Why did he stick up for her more than her own husband stuck up for her? Because if that were me, I would have literally shat on their faces. Even if that was my best friend, I would have shat on their face. Like, I would have been like, yeah, that's actually my partner, and you're literally bullying her. So that's annoying. Not sure why you want to be friends with these people. Like, all of this is so confusing to me, and it's so crazy. It's like, no, because I would be so done with these people. This is honestly tiring and exhausting for me. Like, I just think as soon as that bitch is being a bitch and saying, you need to dye your hair, I would have been like, okay, bye, I'm done. I don't want to be involved anymore. I don't want to be in the wedding. Period. Pooh. And then none of this other shit would have happened, but this person said, this is on you. They didn't make you do anything. You could have said no at any point. Life is too short to be a doormat. OP said, definitely agree, and hindsight is 2020. It was the first wedding I stood in as a bridesmaid, so I was at a real and true loss of how far I was supposed to go. Well, if anyone has never been in a wedding before that is watching this, please realize that you should never be changing your appearance to be in a wedding. And if someone is giving you this much slack about their wedding, simply drop out. And maybe you love this person and you don't want to start drama, but this person actually sucks, because no one should be asking you to be changing their appearance for your wedding. I mean, your appearance for their wedding. This is the update. This is the only update. Hey Reddit, I posted a few days ago about my husband Joe's best friend Seth's wedding. Here's the link to the original post. And we're not going to read the TLDR because we just read. First, the update, and then the clarification from some of the recurring comments. Update. I told my husband I'm not going to read the letter. The apology is a year and a half late, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a load of bullshit intended to get back to being friends with him. If they truly cared about me in this situation, they'd never have called me crazy. They'd have apologized the minute I expressed how hurt I was. They wouldn't have done what they did in the first place. Joe is a huge believer in giving people room to grow and learn from mistakes, which is why he told me about the letter in the first place and not just burned it himself. After our talk, he realizes what kind of damage it would do to me to let Seth and Mia back into our lives, even if they have grown and changed. I don't need to be their human empathy test subject. I truly hope they've become better people, but given they're reaching back out because nobody else will be friends with them, I doubt they truly have. As for the comments, I had a lot of people asserting that the outcome of this is entirely my fault, and that I let myself be walked all over, so I deserved everything that came to me. While I don't entirely disagree, I do think that even in my long-ass post, there's a lot of context missing. To start, Joe and Seth had been friends for over 10 years at this point. If I caused a scene at Seth's wedding even warranted, I feared what it would do to their friendship. The friendship basically ended either way, thanks to Seth's wife, but I digress. I wore the wig because I didn't want to rock the boat. I was young and naive and didn't actually think Mia would make me wear a wig until the morning of, when they were slapping a wig on my head and shooing me out of the salon chair. I'd heard from Mia firsthand how much stress she was under due to the wedding and her insane mother, and I thought being a sounding board for her and being there for her would have made her have a change of heart. Instead, I became the target. She couldn't very well bully her mother, so she bullied me instead. There were also a lot of people calling me out about Seth pulling me aside and telling me how unhappy he was. And again, I think you're missing key context. I didn't just tell him we have a spare bedroom for him and leave it at that. I talked at length with him about these things. I told him that he deserved better, that he could come stay with us for as long as he needed to figure things out, that no matter how deep the hole he dug himself felt, we were there to get him out of it. He had a house and pets with Mia. He worked with Mia's dad. She had successfully made herself a part of every piece of his life, and in our conversations, I told Seth that Joe and I could help him detach however he needed. I even told him he was being abused, especially when it came to things being thrown and doors being slammed. But Seth is of the mindset that men can never be the victims of domestic violence. I wonder if that mindset has changed by now. Point is, I said everything but outright telling him to leave Mia. Maybe that's what the comments were getting at, is that I should have spelled it out like that. The day before the wedding, Seth asked if it was too late, and Joe and I told him no. We told him he could get in the car, and we could drive away with no questions asked. Seth is a grown adult too. He chose what he did. Lots of people were coming after my husband as well, and I can't lie. Seth and Mia's wedding definitely did some damage to our relationship. I left that situation feeling like no matter how many times Joe told me I was the most important person in his life, there would always be something or someone that could get in the way of that. Things were rocky for a bit. He was apologetic the moment the wedding was over, wishing he'd taken the wig off my head or gone to the salon and picked me up and taken me home. Hindsight is 20/20, I guess. If either of us had known that no matter what, Seth and Mia were going to completely isolate themselves, I wouldn't have worried so much about preserving Joe and Seth's friendship, and neither would he. At the end of it, though, Joe and I have talked it through. We know where our priorities lie. The only reason he'd been advocating for me to read the apology letter was for my own peace of mind and my own closure. He respects my decision to leave the note unread and leave Seth and Mia to be unhappily ever after. Okay, well, I'm glad she added that context because obviously a lot of that was like also what I was saying. I was definitely pretty spot on with all the comments, I guess, that she was reading because I thought all the same stuff. It's just crazy to me because although I would, of course, not want to be like drama or the center of attention in this case, I still would be like, hey, this actually isn't right and I'm not even going to attend. And I truly think even with my boyfriend's best friend, say like if this were me in this situation, he would definitely pick my side. He would be like, that's ridiculous, especially seeing what they were doing to me. He would have picked my side in like 100 times over, and he would have been like, no, that's ridiculous. And then we would both be like, goodbye, we're not going to be in this wedding because you're being ridiculous. And then that would have been that. And it's not like you need to create a scene. Like, you didn't need to create a scene. You just needed to be like bye. You could say it to them in private if you wanted, or you could just leave. I don't know. I just feel like there were just so many options that But I get it because they're young. Like they were 24 years old. Yeah, I get it. I feel like you just kind of, a lot of people let people walk all over themselves. And I can say that like, oh no, I would be sticking up for myself. But honestly, in some situations, I get scared to stick up for myself. In some situation, in like a lot of situations, I stick up for myself. There are also situations where sometimes I'm like, wait, am I in the wrong here? Sometimes when you like feel really gaslit about something and you're like, wait, I'm in the wrong here, right? Because obviously like I shouldn't make a scene because this is their wedding and all of that. So I get being in that situation. I do. Honestly, if I'm empathetic about it, like I do get it. I just feel like at a point I'd be like, okay, no, this is ridiculous. And then me also, like, I'd be confiding in my friends, and then I think my friends would be like, oh no, that's crazy. And then that would validate the way that I felt. And then I would feel more like confident in sticking up for myself. But at the end of the day, I do think her husband should have. I mean, I get it though. They had their problems with that situation. So I'm glad that that wasn't just like glazed over and she was just like, oh no, it's fine. He didn't stick up for me at all. They had their, little tiff about that. Anyway, that's the end of that episode. Let me know what you thought about those stories. Like, ooh, some people are crazy and really piss me off. They really piss me off. I love you guys. And if you haven't already, please press the subscribe button, leave a like and a comment, even if you're on Spotify, because I love seeing the Spotify comments and I love seeing all the comments or any listening platform. I always forget that I'm on like other listening platforms as well. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye. My merch is out. Yeah, but this is it. And this comes in pink, black, and white. If you want to get a little cute piece of merch, go grab one.
Link is in the description to purchase.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.